Borderline review. I was bowled over by Nicholson's first lead horror role in this Samara-weaving stalker movie. Borderline already had me on its side from the beginning by copying the title of Madonna's early hit single to underscore everything that it does best as both a stalker thriller and a movie about obsession with pop music. But there's so much more to it than just that. The new horror comedy is the directorial debut of Cocaine Bear scribe Jimmy Warden, and while it hits some typical freshman film snags, it is an excellent argument for the filmmaker to get behind the camera for more projects in the future. This Samara-weaving horror movie tells a relatively simple cat and mouse story, though the amount of mayhem that is born from it knows no bounds. But the basic premise is as follows. In 1990s Los Angeles, pop star Sophia Weaving lives a pampered but relatively isolated life in a giant mansion, protected by her friend and bodyguard Belle, Eric Dane. However, chaos ensues when her delusional stalker Paul Durson, Nicholson, who believes they are deeply in love, arrives with several accomplices and hostages in tow on what he insists is their wedding night. The Borderline cast only hits one flat note. Borderline is first and foremost an acting showcase, and both leads knock it out of the park. After making a big splash with his supporting performance in the Smile 2 cast, Nicholson gets to try his hand at a horror lead in a role that begs the question, why hasn't he already had a dozen projects like this? Nicholson is simply superb, finding little bits of physical comedy to add flavor to even the smallest moments, and crafting a character who is at all times simultaneously believable as both a hopeless knave and a credible, unpredictable threat. I was completely bowled over by what he brought to the table here. There is a shot that focuses entirely on his face, and the emotions flashing across it that would earn pride of place in even Oscar-winning actors' reels, and the fact that a relatively untested actor has earned that kind of directorial confidence shows that he is absolutely going places. Nicholson is the son of three-time Oscar winner Jack Nicholson and die-hard actor Rebecca Broussard. Samara Weaving is also as reliable as ever here. She only gets one or two real chances to pull out the piercing, ululating wail that makes her such a good scream queen in movies like Ready or Not. But even though Borderline asks her to work in a very different mode, it is tremendously effective. The performance she is delivering is relaxed, shaggy, and piercingly funny, sculpting a character who has the same DNA as her scrappy Ready or Not survivor, and yet feels entirely different. And a pop star certainly should feel different from a blushing young bride. Unfortunately, the cast does have one huge liability in the form of Grey's Anatomy and Euphoria alum Eric Dane. He delivers the majority of his dialogue in a flat monotone that can thankfully sink into the background in group scenes, but deflates the momentum of any one-on-one moments, particularly and most ruinously in the extended opening sequence. It is very fortunate for the movie that his character becomes significantly less important after the rest of Borderline's otherwise very capable ensemble, which also includes the delightful Patrick Cox and Alba Baptista, is introduced. Borderline doesn't need an Eras Tour budget to put on a good show. It is clear that Borderline was not a fabulously expensive movie, but it wields what it has very well. The 2025 horror movie is so cleverly mounted, in fact, that it features one of the best kills I've seen in a horror movie in months, without showing a single second of actual carnage. All it takes is one glorious close-up insert shot to deliver every last shred of information you need to parse exactly what is going on and be walloped with its brutality. Borderline also features dynamite music supervision, which is absolutely necessary for a movie about a pop musician that doesn't feature a full original number like last year's Smile 2, Trap, or even The Idea of You. Although there are enough glimpses of Sophia's career around the edges of the movie that they deliver a sense of exactly how big she is as a pop idol, it seems obvious that they didn't have the time or money to mount a performance or even a Fox music video. The enjoyment of both listening to and performing music is always front of mind. However, that absence is hardly felt, as the money saved was clearly spent on a series of pitch-perfect needle drops from the 1990s. It infuses the movie with a vibrant musical sensibility by draping it in everything from Annie Lennox to Irving Berlin. What it lacks in a Sophia original, it makes up for by existing in a cinematic universe where music and the enjoyment of both listening to and performing it is always front of mind. Once it gets going, Borderline really sings,